corazón, mi corazón.
Te lo dije bien clarito.
Permanece a la escucha. Permanece a la escucha.
12 de la noche en La Habana, Cuba.
Hello. Watching polygonal masonry, we get captivated by a match between two rival groups. On one side, we have the academics, claiming that polygonal masonry is an innate talent, played by every primitive society without even practicing. Whilst on the other one, we'll find squads, such as the Cyclopeans, that bet on teamwork, as the logical way to invent these mind-bending stone constructions. Once in a while, these two teams meet in fields where none of them can clearly win, and each style of play is so tight they are sorted only by a tense accounting of the details. Such is the case for Tiwanaku in Bolivia, with one score still to be settled. Is Tiwanaku part of the Cyclopean networks of builders, or is it just some original grouping of stones? Let's untie this match. First shot, is it polygonal? Meaning, are the building stones shaped into irregular formats? Well, for the most part, Tiwanaku is not that way, not polygonal. The Tiwanaku ruins have a number of ancient buildings of interest for tourists. Most of them, those made with soft red sandstone, are not so special, being roughly pyramids of randomly assembled stones, in a way many amateur teams could do. But are the stones in fitting shapes? Let's see. As far as the ability to shape stones in odd format goes, the H-blocks in Puma Punku are probably the finest work of any ancient stonemason, transforming very hard andesite stone into incredibly precise and smooth objects, but more as a sculpture and less as a building technique, as we'll confirm further on. Second round, is it isolated? For some unclear reason, in Sardinia versus Italy, Menorca versus Catalonia, or Okinawa versus central Japan, some islands have plenty of megalithic ruins, older than what we can find in the mainland. That's both because the ruins are better protected in islands, but also that the older stuff in the mainland is being misdated. Anyway, isolation is helpful for ancient ruins preservation, especially the Cyclopean ones. Looking at the geography of the Bolivian Altiplano, I'd say it is isolated enough, being at 4,000 meters in altitude and surrounded by massive mountains. Is it an acropolis? No. Lake Titicaca is a large body of fresh water and a nice spot for a civilization. However, for no good reason, Tiwanaku is placed on a defenseless flat plain 20 kilometers away from the water. Being away from the coast compares nicely with other Cyclopean sites like Athens or Jerusalem, but the valley location does not. Cyclopean builders were keen on doing earthworks, building acropolis, elevated plains up on a hill. But Tiwanaku does not offer that prestigious location. Worse, Puma Punku is not set for earthworks. Another round. Is it pre-writing? Most polygonal sites are prehistoric. They predate writing. For example, in Italy, of all the thousands of stones set into Cyclopean walls, only 3 of them have some sort of sign carved into them. And it's not very literary. Likewise, in South America, until the arrival of the Spanish, there was no writing. Thus, there are no first-hand accounts for Tiwanaku, and there is no good way to grasp what they were thinking. Is it lost technology? Oh, way more than that. It's impossible technology. The andesite stones are hard and were cut and shaped to a precision that seems magic. Whilst, in many cases, the complexity and hard work applied in polygonal masonry is neglected by academia, that is not the case in Puma Punku. Not even the most desk-bound scholar would dare to say it was simple to achieve whatever the ancient Tiwanakans were up to. Is it in an earthquake zone? Yes, the Bolivian Altiplano is shaky. Since polygonal masonry is sturdy, it is often found in earthquake-prone areas, either because it was developed to resist earthquakes or because the earthquakes destroyed everything else, and only the Cyclopean wall resisted. In many sites like Okinawa, it's fair to say both of those explanations are correct. Polygonal is the oldest and the only survivor because it was meant to resist, whilst everything else was destroyed by endless troubles. Is it old? Not nearly enough. Tiwanaku is said to be from the centuries 0 to 6 AD, in the case of the red sandstone pyramids, and 8 to 9 centuries AD for the hard andesite blocks. It could be older, of course, but like most Cyclopean sites, that would be 1,000 years older and not 10,000, meaning academics like to date on the younger spectrum, DiCaprio style. But it's not fair to say they are aggressively pursuing underaged. Was mortar used? Proper polygonal masonry does not use mortar to fix the stones. They are shaped to set one onto the another without glue. Although the sort of pyramids in red sandstone are filled with loamy soil, thus kind of gripping the stones together, when it comes to Puma Punku and the hard andesite blocks, the surfaces are so incredibly smooth that nothing can be found inside those joints. No mortar there, which means no datable materials. How is it dated? There is a bunch of carbon dating from that site. On top of that, in Puma Punku, the fine andesite works sits on top of a simpler platform of red sandstone, making the case for an older date for the construction unconvincing. In many suspiciously dated sites, the Cyclopean element sits at the base of a rougher construction, but not in Puma Punku. What about being followed by inferior constructions? That yes, the Spanish colonial work is clearly inferior. Compared to Puma Punku's H blocks, every stone masonry can be said to be inferior. The smoothness, the exactness, it looks like science fiction. Even the Incas, famous for being quite sharp with stones, were amazed by Puma Punku, and used the carved stones as signposts, spreading the fine blocks around, just for decorative effect, and also probably because they could not understand their purpose. Are the irregular shapes fitted? I don't think so. The stones in Puma Punku look like some demented Lego puzzle, with all these indentations begging for a joint to match. However, there is no male insert to be found. We just can't find the reverse shapes to match the existing openings. Thus, the carvings are purely decorative. And as much as we can see, the stones stand one onto another orthogonally, or in horizontal lines. Is it like any other site? One of the key tactics for the Cyclopean team is that the know-how had to be transmitted to achieve similar results. However, there is nothing like Puma Punku anywhere else, not around the world, not close by. In this region of Lake Titicaca, there are a few funerary towers called chulpas, built with many different types of stonework, some even with that Cusco strike, that puffy, pillowy fitting, but none with the Puma Punku kick. The incredible andesite stones such as the H blocks are just unique to Tiwanaku and nowhere else. Is it shared technology? That will settle the score. Puma Punku cannot be said to be a part of the global Cyclopean team if it's not sharing know-how. It is quite reasonable to assume that Greeks and Italians talked about building their fantastic polygonal walls. We have myths and traditions saying that the Albanese learned from the Phoenicia and that the Greeks from Egypt. However, Puma Punku is just on a league of its own. There is nothing like it anywhere else, not even in Peru. Despite counting more arguments against than for Tiwanaku being on the global Cyclopean team, that is mostly because Puma Punku is unique and does not fit any category. On the other hand, it is a lost technology of stone, and one that we cannot blame the Spaniards for exterminating. Just for that, we can draw some parallels to other polygonal sites. Namely, we can try to figure out how such a complex know-how as Cyclopean masonry or Puma Punku just disappears. That's what we'll try to see in the next video. Until then, leave this one a like. I'll see you soon.